The family that trashed me and the success they can't buy. I remember the smell of stale coffee, and the sound of my dad's truck, pulling out of the driveway for the last time. I was 19, and I was too much work. That's what they called me. I had just spent my entire savings, trying to fix the roof on their house, and 3 days later, I came home from my shift at the warehouse, to find the front door deadbolt. My clothes were in 3 black garbage bags on the porch, and there was a post-it note, stuck to the plastic. It said, "We're moving to Florida, to focus on your sister's tennis career. Don't follow us, you're an adult now. Figure it out." I sat on that porch in the pouring rain for 2 hours. I didn't cry. I just felt empty, like a piece of furniture they decided wasn't worth the space in the moving van. My sister, Maya, she was the prodigy. I was just the kid who worked 50 hours a week to pay for her private coaches. And just like that, they were gone. No forwarding address, no good luck. I spent that first night sleeping in my old Honda Civic behind a 24-hour laundromat. The seat was lumpy, the heater barely worked, and every time a car drove by, I jumped. I was terrified. But that night, in that cold, cramped car, I made a promise to myself. I was going to build a life so big and so bright that they would feel the chill of the bridge they burned. The next 3 years were a blur of caffeine and grit. I took every bottom of the barrel job you can imagine. I scrubbed floors in a mall at 4 in the morning. I delivered pizzas in snowstorms. I even worked as a night shift security guard, just so I could use the office Wi-Fi to teach myself how to code. I lived on peanut butter and generic crackers. I learned how to cut my own hair in a gas station mirror. Most people my age were at college parties, but I was in a public library, study ing, building, obsessing. Eventually, it clicked. I developed a small app for local contractors to track their supply orders. It was simple, it was ugly, but it worked. A small tech firm in Austin bought it for $50,000. To me, that felt like 50 million. I didn't buy a flashy car. I didn't go on a vacation. I put every single cent back into my next project. By the time I was 25, I had 12 employees. By 27, I was running one of the fastest growing logistics platforms in the country. I moved into a high-rise in downtown Chicago. I had a view of the lake, a fridge full of food I didn't have to ration, and finally, I felt safe. I had changed my last name years ago to The World. I was a self-made success. To my family, I was a ghost, and I liked it that way. Then came the email. I was sitting in a board meeting when my phone buzzed. The subject line was family. It was from Maya. She didn't ask how I was. She didn't apologize for the 3 years of silence. She just said, "Dad's business went under. Mom's had a health scare. We're back in town, and we're staying at a Motel 6. We saw your interview in the Business Journal. We need to talk, for the sake of the family." My heart was hammering against my ribs. For the sake of the family? Which family? The one that left a teenager on a rainy porch with 3 bags of trash? I didn't reply. Not at first. I waited a week. I wanted them to sit in that motel room, wondering if I'd even seen it. Finally, I agreed to meet them, but not at their motel, and not at my office. I chose a high-end, loud steakhouse, a place where I knew they would feel completely out of place. When I walked in, I saw them. My dad looked smaller, his hair was thin, and his eyes were darting around the room. My mom was wearing a dress that looked like it had been in a suitcase for a month. And Maya, the tennis star, she was just staring at her phone, looking bored. The silence at the table was suffocating. My dad cleared his throat. "Caleb, you look good. We always knew you had that spark in you." I didn't even pick up the menu. I just looked at him. "The spark? Is that what you call it?" "I call it survival. It's what happens when you leave a kid to freeze in his car." My mom reached across the table, trying to touch my hand. I pulled back. "Honey," she whispered, "we were in a dark place. We thought you were stronger than us. We did it for Maya. We had to give her a chance." 100,000? They weren't there for me. "And what about my chance?" I asked. My voice was calm, which somehow made it scarier. "You didn't give me a chance. You gave me an eviction notice." Then, the mask dropped. My dad leaned in, his voice getting desperate. "Look, Caleb, we're in a hole. A big one. The bank is coming for Maya's condo. If you could just give us a bridge loan, maybe 200,000. It's nothing to someone like you." I felt a cold laugh bubbling up in my chest. They were there for a payout. "A bridge loan," I repeated. "You want me to build a bridge for the people who burned the last one? That's bold, even for you, Dad." Maya finally looked up. "Don't be like that, Caleb. You're rich now. It's literally selfish to keep it all while we're struggling. We're blood. I looked at Maya. I remembered tutoring her for hours, while she called me a loser for not being an athlete. I remembered giving her my lunch money, so she could buy fancy sports drinks. Blood is just a biological fact, I said. Family is a choice, and you chose to leave. I pulled a small envelope out of my jacket pocket. My dad's eyes lit up. He thought it was a check. I slid it across the table. He opened it, and his face went pale. It wasn't a check. It was a copy of that post-it note. I had kept it for 8 years. I'd laminated it. I figured it out, Dad, I said. Just like you told me to. The look of pure, raw fury on his face was something I'll never forget. He started making a scene, calling me an ungrateful brat. My mom started crying, loud enough for the other tables to turn. I just stood up. I didn't feel angry anymore. I just felt finished. I paid the bill for this dinner. Before I even sat down, I told them, enjoy the steak. It's the last thing you'll ever get from me. As I walked toward the exit, I heard my dad yell, you'll be alone forever. No one will ever love a cold-hearted snake like you. I stopped. I turned around, and I smiled. I'm not alone, Dad. I have a team. I have friends who helped me when I was sleeping in my car. I have a life that I built. I'm not a snake. I'm just a stranger. I walked out into the cool night air. My phone buzzed again. It was a text from my assistant, asking if I wanted to book a flight to Bali for the company retreat. I looked back at the restaurant window. I saw them arguing over the leftovers. I deleted Maya's number. I blocked the email address. I got into my car, a nice one this time, and I drove away. Sometimes, the best way to figure it out is to realize that some people aren't worth the math. I didn't need their apology, and I certainly didn't need their love. I had my own. I drove home to the life I earned, and for the first time in my life, I didn't look in the rearview mirror once.